My name is Lorraine Fisher, and the day my only son looked me in the eye and told our entire family that I had destroyed his marriage, I thought my heart had finally broken beyond repair. Everyone believed him because I'd stayed silent for months. I could have defended myself. Instead, I stood up and said, "If you truly want to know what happened, don't listen to me. Listen to Emily." Then I told them I'd invited my former daughter-in-law to Sunday dinner, where she would tell the story none of them had ever heard. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, I'd love to know. You're not alone. Please leave a like if this story speaks to your heart, and consider subscribing so we can keep sharing these journeys together. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. I always enjoy reading every single one. My name is Lorraine Fisher. I turned 68 a few months before everything fell apart, though at the time I believed my hardest days were already behind me. I had lived in Columbus, Ohio for more than 40 years. My late husband Daniel and I raised our only child there. Daniel passed away 11 years ago after a long battle with pancreatic cancer. Losing him nearly broke me, but Ryan gave me a reason to keep waking up every morning. People often say mothers see only the best in their children. Maybe that's true. Looking back now, I wonder how much I missed because I wanted so badly to believe I had raised a good man. Ryan had always been an easy child. He wasn't the loudest boy in school. He wasn't the star athlete. He wasn't the smartest student either. But he was kind. At least that's what everyone believed. When his teachers called, it was usually to tell me he had helped another student. When neighbors needed someone to shovel snow, Ryan volunteered before I even asked. Every Mother's Day, he would leave a handwritten card beside my coffee mug before I woke up. One year, when he was only 12, he wrote something I've never forgotten. "Mom, I'll always take care of you the way you take care of me." I cried when I read it. Daniel laughed and said, "Don't hold him to that promise. Boys grow up." Ryan overheard him. "I'm serious," he said. "I'll never let Mom be alone." For years, I believed every word. After Daniel died, Ryan became even more attentive. He called every evening. He fixed things around my house. He insisted on mowing my lawn every Saturday. Whenever someone asked if I felt lonely living by myself, I always smiled. I have a wonderful son, and I truly believed I did. Ryan was 31 when he met Emily Carter. She taught second grade at a public elementary school just outside Columbus. The first time he brought her to my house, she carried a homemade peach pie. "I wasn't sure what you liked," she said shyly. "So I made the recipe my grandmother taught me." That small gesture told me everything. She wasn't trying to impress me. She simply wanted to be thoughtful. We spent hours talking that afternoon. She asked about Daniel. She asked about my years as a library director. She listened far more than she spoke. Before they left, she hugged me. Not one of those polite little hugs people give because they feel obligated. A real hug. Warm, gentle, sincere. The moment the front door closed, I smiled to myself. Ryan had chosen well. Over the next 2 years, I watched them build a beautiful relationship. They laughed easily together. They traveled whenever they could. Every Christmas, they hosted dinner instead of expecting everyone else to do the work. Ryan looked happier than I'd ever seen him. When he proposed to Emily during a weekend trip to Vermont, he called me before anyone else. She said yes. I remember sitting on my porch swing with tears running down my face. I knew she would. Their wedding wasn't extravagant. Neither of them wanted that. It took place in a small church with white flowers and soft piano music. Daniel should have been sitting beside me. Instead, I held his wedding band inside my purse. It made me feel as though he was there somehow. When Ryan saw me crying before the ceremony, he squeezed my hand. "Mom." They're happy tears, I whispered, and your father would be so proud. After the ceremony, Emily surprised me again. She handed me a framed photograph of Daniel holding Ryan as a baby. We wanted him to be part of today. I couldn't even speak. I simply hugged her. That was the day I stopped thinking of Emily as my son's wife. She became my daughter too. Maybe not by blood, but certainly by heart. From the beginning, I made myself one promise. I would never become the kind of mother-in-law everyone complains about. I had heard those stories for years. Women who walked into their children's homes without knocking. Women who criticized cooking. Women who demanded grandchildren. Women who believed marriage still revolved around them. I refused to become one of them. So I created rules for myself. I never visited without calling first. If they said they were busy, I stayed home. I never asked why they hadn't had children yet. I never gave marriage advice unless they specifically asked. When holidays came around, I let them decide where they wanted to celebrate. Sometimes they came to my house. Sometimes they stayed home alone. Either way, I was happy. Emily noticed. One afternoon, while Ryan was outside grilling hamburgers, she helped me wash dishes. "You know something?" she asked. "What?" "I wish more mothers-in-law were like you." I laughed. "What did I do?" "You trust us." She smiled. "You let us build our own family." Her words stayed with me. Months later, she mailed me a birthday card. Inside, she wrote something I'll never throw away. "Thank you for loving me without trying to change me." I kept that card inside my nightstand. I still do. Every Sunday evening, Ryan and Emily came over for dinner. Nothing fancy. Pot roast, chicken casserole, apple pie. Sometimes we played cards. Sometimes we watched football. Sometimes we simply talked until midnight. It felt peaceful, comfortable, safe. Looking back, those evenings became some of the happiest memories of my life. If there were small disagreements between them, they never showed me. If one of them had a difficult day, they supported each other, or at least, that's what I believed. Ryan often wrapped an arm around Emily while they stood in my kitchen. She would lean against him naturally. When they left, they always held hands walking to the car. I remember watching from my front window more times than I can count. Every single time, I thanked God. Not because my son had become successful. Not because he earned a good salary. Because he wasn't alone. I knew what loneliness felt like. I didn't want him to experience it. One Thanksgiving, Diane pulled me aside while everyone else was laughing in the dining room. "You got lucky," she whispered. "I know. Ryan married a wonderful woman." "I couldn't agree more," Diane nodded. "And she genuinely loves you." I smiled proudly. I love her too. At that moment, if someone had told me that one day the same family sitting around my dining table would believe I destroyed Ryan's marriage, I would have laughed. If someone had told me Ryan himself would accuse me, I would have called them cruel. Because nothing about those years hinted at the storm that was quietly forming. Nothing. At least, nothing I was willing to see. If I'm being honest, the first signs of change were so small, I almost feel embarrassed admitting I noticed them at all. At the time, I told myself I was imagining things. Ryan had just been promoted to senior operations manager at his company. It was the kind of position he had worked toward for years. Better salary, bigger responsibilities, longer hours. At first, I was proud. "You earned this," I told him over dinner one Sunday. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, I did." That was the first moment something felt off. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. Flat, tired, distant. Emily noticed it too. I could tell by the way she watched him when he wasn't looking. Careful, quiet, concerned. The first few weeks after his promotion, Ryan began canceling their usual Sunday dinners. "Work's crazy right now, Mom," he would say. "Deadlines, meetings, you know how it is." I did understand, or at least I thought I did. "Take care of yourself," I told him. "We can have dinner anytime." But then, anytime slowly became almost never. When they did come over, things felt different. Ryan checked his phone constantly, even at the dinner table. Emily would try to start conversations. "Ryan, tell your mom about the new project you're leading." He would nod, barely looking up. "It's nothing special." That wasn't like him. Ryan used to love talking about his work. Now he sounded irritated just being asked. One evening, I served pot roast, his favorite. He took one bite and set his fork down. "This is a little dry." The room went quiet. Emily quickly jumped in. "I think it's great." Ryan shrugged. "I'm just saying." I smiled and said nothing. But inside, something tightened in my chest. After dinner, while Ryan stepped outside to take a call, Emily stayed behind to help me clean up. "You don't have to do that," I said gently. "I don't mind," she replied. We stood side by side at the sink, the sound of running water filling the silence. "Is everything okay?" I asked carefully. She paused, just for a second. Then she smiled. "Of course." It was too quick. Too practiced. I didn't push further. Maybe I should have. A few weeks later, Ryan called me unexpectedly. His voice sounded sharp. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think Emily understands how stressful my job is?" The question caught me off guard. "I'm sure she tries to," I said slowly. He let out a frustrated breath. "She doesn't. Every time I come home, she wants to talk. About her day, about her students, about feelings." I stayed quiet. "I just need peace when I get home," he continued. "Not more noise." "Have you told her that?" I asked. He laughed dryly. "She takes everything personally." That didn't sound like the Emily I knew. "Maybe she just wants to feel connected to you," I said gently. "Or maybe she's too sensitive," he snapped. There it was again, that tone, cold, dismissive. I chose my next words carefully. "Marriage takes patience, Ryan." "I don't need a lecture," he said. "I'm not giving you one." He sighed. "Forget it. I shouldn't have called." The line went silent. I sat there for a long time after the call ended. Something was changing, and I didn't know how to stop it. The next time I visited their house, I arrived a little earlier than usual. I had called first. Emily answered. "Hi, Lorraine. Of course, come over." Her voice sounded normal, warm, but when I stepped inside, I felt tension immediately. Ryan was in the kitchen. Emily stood near the counter holding a dish towel. "I already told you that's not what happened," Ryan said sharply. "I'm not arguing," Emily replied softly. "Then stop making it sound like I did something wrong." "I didn't say that." "You implied it." They both turned when they saw me. The room changed instantly. Ryan smiled. "Hey, Mom." Emily smiled too. "Hi." It was like watching a curtain drop, everything hidden again. "I hope I'm not interrupting," I said. "Not at all," Ryan replied quickly, but I had heard enough. I pretended nothing had happened. We sat down for lunch. We talked about safe topics, weather, work, neighbors, but I couldn't ignore what I had heard, or how Emily avoided eye contact the entire time. Later, as I prepared to leave, Emily walked me to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said. I touched her arm gently. You can talk to me, you know. She looked at me, really looked this time. There was something in her eyes, something heavy, something she wasn't ready to say. I know, she whispered. Then she hugged me, tight, longer than usual. That hug stayed with me the entire drive home. A week later, Ryan came by alone. That almost never happened. Where's Emily? I asked. Busy, he said. He sat down across from me. I think we're having problems. My heart dropped. What kind of problems? He rubbed his face. She's changed. How? She questions everything I do. She overreacts. She makes me feel like I'm the bad guy all the time. I listened, carefully. Do you think she feels the same way? I asked. He frowned. What do you mean? That maybe she feels unheard or hurt. He shook his head. No, this is on her. That certainty worried me. Marriage is rarely that simple. Have you considered counseling? I suggested. He scoffed. We're not that kind of couple. I didn't argue, but I felt something slipping, something fragile. That night, I sat alone in my living room thinking about Daniel. We had our disagreements too, but we never stopped listening to each other. That's what kept us together. Listening, understanding, respect. I wasn't sure Ryan understood those things anymore, and I wasn't sure Emily felt them either. Still, I told myself this was just a phase. Stress, work pressure, life adjustments, things couples go through all the time. I told myself they would figure it out. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere. I told myself everything would be fine. But deep down, there was a quiet voice I kept ignoring. A voice that whispered something wasn't just wrong. It was breaking, and I was standing right there, pretending I didn't see it. The day Ryan told me he was getting divorced, I remember exactly where I was standing. I was in my kitchen rinsing a coffee mug. The sunlight was coming through the window, the kind of quiet morning that usually made me feel at peace. Then my phone rang. Mom, Ryan said. There was no greeting, no warmth, just that single word. What's wrong? I asked immediately. He didn't hesitate. Emily and I are getting divorced. The mug slipped in my hand and hit the sink with a dull crack. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I'm sorry. What did you just say? We're done, he replied flatly. My heart started racing. Since when? What happened? He sighed like I was asking something unreasonable. It's been building for a while. Ryan, I thought you were just going through a rough patch. It's more than that. I leaned against the counter. Did something specific happen? There was a pause. Then he said something that would change everything. She walked away. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, she left, packed her things, and left. I felt a wave of confusion. Emily wouldn't just leave without a reason. Well, she did. His voice sharpened. Not everyone is as perfect as you think, Mom. That stung. I never said she was perfect. You didn't have to. I closed my eyes for a second. Something about this felt wrong. Have you talked to her? I asked. Of course I have. And there's nothing left to say. I swallowed. Where is she now? I don't know, he said quickly. Too quickly. You don't know, I repeated. No, and honestly, I don't care. That wasn't true. I could hear it in his voice, but I didn't push. Not yet. What about the house? I asked. I'm staying. She's gone. The way he said it, it felt final, cold, like a door slammed shut. Ryan, I said gently, marriages don't just end overnight. Maybe yours didn't, he snapped. But mine did. Silence filled the line. I took a slow breath. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm not hurting, he replied immediately. I'm just done. We stayed on the phone a few more minutes, but the conversation went nowhere. When I hung up, I stood there in my kitchen for a long time. Something wasn't adding up. Emily didn't just walk away. Not without a reason. Not without saying goodbye. That same afternoon, I called her. It went straight to voicemail. Emily, it's Lorraine. Please call me when you can. I waited. Hours passed. No call. I tried again that evening, and again the next morning. Nothing. By the third day, I started to worry. Not about the divorce. About her. This wasn't like Emily. She would never disappear without a word. Unless something had happened. I drove by their house once. I didn't go in. I just sat in my car across the street. Ryan's car was there. Emily's wasn't. The curtains were closed. The house felt empty. A few days later, Ryan came over. He didn't call first. He just showed up. I figured we should talk, he said as he walked in. I nodded. Sit down. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where he used to do his homework as a child. I've started telling people, he said, telling them what? About the divorce. I hesitated. And what are you telling them? He looked at me directly. The truth. Something in his eyes made my stomach tighten. And what is that? I asked carefully. He leaned back in his chair. That Emily gave up on the marriage. I didn't respond. And that you? He paused. I felt my breath catch. What about me? He shrugged. You didn't help. I stared at him. I didn't help. You always took her side. That wasn't true. I stayed neutral, I said quietly. That's the same thing. No, it's not. He shook his head. You made her feel validated. I listened to her. Exactly. The room felt smaller. Heated. Ryan, I said slowly, listening to someone doesn't mean choosing them over you. It does when you're my mother. There it was. The line I never thought I would hear. You think I chose Emily over you? I asked. I think you made her believe she was right, he said. And that ruined everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're blaming me for your divorce. I'm saying you didn't help save it. That wasn't the same thing, but it was close enough to hurt. Deeply. I didn't even know what was happening, I whispered. Maybe that's the problem, he replied. We sat in silence. I looked at him, really looked. This wasn't the boy who promised to take care of me. This was someone else, someone harder, someone colder. Ryan, I said softly, if there's more to this story, you need to be honest with me. He stood up. There isn't. Then he walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back. I just thought you should know what people are going to hear. The door closed behind him. And just like that, the story began. Not the truth. His version. Within weeks, I started noticing the change. Diane called less often. When she did, her tone felt different. Careful. Measured. So, how are you holding up? She asked one evening. I'm fine, I said. Ryan told me what happened. Of course he did. And what exactly did he tell you? She hesitated. He said things were complicated. That meant she didn't want to repeat it, but she believed it. I could hear it. At church, people spoke to me with sympathy, but not the kind you give someone grieving, the kind you give someone who has done something wrong. I saw it in their eyes. He told them, all of them, and I stayed silent. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't know the truth myself. And I refused to defend myself with guesses. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Emily never called, never wrote, never appeared. It was as if she had vanished completely. And with every passing day, Ryan's version of the story became the only version anyone knew, including the one about me. The mother who didn't help. The mother who took the wrong side. The mother who destroyed her son's marriage. And the worst part, I didn't even know what I was being accused of. 6 months passed after the divorce. 6 long, quiet, uncomfortable months. And in that time, something even more painful than the divorce itself happened. Ryan didn't stop talking. He told his version of the story everywhere. Family dinners, church gatherings, phone calls with relatives. Even people I barely knew started looking at me differently. It wasn't loud. No one confronted me directly. But I could feel it. The hesitation, the judgment, the quiet assumption that there must be truth behind what Ryan was saying. After all, why would a son lie about his own mother? That question haunted me more than anything else, because I didn't have an answer. One Sunday after church, I was standing near the parking lot when Diane approached me. She looked uncomfortable. "Lorraine," she said softly, "can we talk?" I nodded. We walked a few steps away from the others. "I don't want to get involved," she began. That sentence alone told me she already was. "But Ryan seems really hurt." "I'm sure he is," I replied calmly. "And he said you." She hesitated. "That you supported Emily too much." There it was again, the same story, repackaged, repeated, believed. "I listened to both of them," I said. Diane nodded slowly. "I know you think that." That stung more than if she had accused me outright. "I don't think it," I said quietly. "I know it." She looked at me for a moment. Then she sighed. "I just hope whatever happened gets resolved." So did I. But I had a growing feeling that resolution wasn't coming. Not anytime soon. That afternoon, I went home and sat in my living room. The house felt heavier than usual, more silent, more empty. I thought about calling Ryan, but every conversation with him ended the same way. Defensive, cold, closed. I thought about calling Emily, but she still hadn't responded to a single message. It was as if she had disappeared from the world, and yet, something inside me kept telling me she hadn't disappeared without a reason. Emily wasn't the kind of woman who walked away without explanation. She wasn't careless. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't someone who would leave people confused and hurting. Unless she believed it was the only way to protect something, or someone. That thought stayed with me. Days later, something unexpected happened. I ran into Sarah Mitchell. I hadn't seen her in years. She used to be Emily's closest friend. They met in college and stayed close even after starting their careers. I was at a small grocery store standing in the produce section when I heard someone say my name. "Lorraine?" I turned around. "Sarah." She smiled, but there was something cautious in her expression. "It's been a long time." It has. We exchanged a few polite words. "How are you?" "How have you been?" The usual things people say when they don't know where the conversation is going. Then she looked at me more seriously. I heard about Ryan and Emily. Of course she had. I'm sorry, she added. I nodded. Thank you. There was a pause. She didn't leave, and I didn't either. Finally, I said something I hadn't said to anyone else. I don't understand what happened. She studied my face, carefully, as if she was trying to decide something. You really don't know? She asked quietly. The way she said it made my heart skip. No, I replied. I don't. She looked around, making sure no one was listening. Then she leaned a little closer. Lorraine Emily didn't leave because she stopped loving Ryan. My breath caught. Then why did she leave? Sarah hesitated. I'm not sure I should be the one telling you this. Please, I said softly. I need to understand. She sighed. I don't know everything. Emily didn't tell me everything either. But you know something, I pressed. She nodded slowly. Enough to know the story Ryan is telling isn't the whole truth? That confirmed what I had felt all along. But what is the truth? I asked. Sarah looked at me, her expression serious now. Emily protected someone. I frowned. Protected who? She shook her head. I don't know exactly, but I know she kept things to herself for a long time. My mind started racing. Why would she do that? Sarah's answer came quietly. Because she didn't want to hurt someone she cared about. The words hit me harder than I expected. She cared about Ryan, I said. Yes, Sarah replied, but not just Ryan. I felt a chill run through me. Are you saying she was protecting me? Sarah didn't answer directly, but she didn't deny it either. I'm saying Emily made a choice, she said. And that choice cost her everything. We stood there in silence. The noise of the store faded into the background. I tried to get her to talk, Sarah continued, after the divorce. And she wouldn't. She just said it was better this way. Better. For who? Do you know where she is now? I asked. Sarah nodded. She's still in Ohio. Different part of the city. My heart started beating faster. Can you give me her address? She hesitated again. I don't know if she'd want that. I won't force anything, I said. I just want to talk. Sarah studied me for a long moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a small piece of paper. She wrote something down, folded it, and handed it to me. I didn't give this to you, she said quietly. I nodded. Thank you. Before she left, she touched my arm. Lorraine, whatever you think happened, it's not that simple. I watched her walk away. Then I looked down at the piece of paper in my hand. Emily's address. For the first time in 6 months, I had a direction. A chance. Maybe even the truth. And as I stood there in the middle of that grocery store, I realized something else. If Emily had been protecting someone, and if that someone was me, then the story I had been living in for the past 6 months was built on a lie that was slowly turning everyone against me, including my own son. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep standing in silence. I didn't go to Emily's address right away. For 2 days, I carried that small, folded piece of paper in my purse, like it was something fragile, something that could either give me answers or break me even further. I kept asking myself the same question. What if I'm wrong? What if Ryan told the truth? What if I show up and Emily confirms everything he said? But then another thought followed. What if she doesn't? On the third morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at that piece of paper again. My hands were trembling slightly. Not from fear alone, from anticipation. 6 months of silence. 6 months of doubt. 6 months of being judged for something I didn't understand. I couldn't carry that any longer. So I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said out loud to an empty house, I need the truth. The drive across town felt longer than it actually was. Columbus looked the same. Same streets, same buildings, same people going about their lives. But everything felt different to me, like I was moving through a version of my life that didn't belong to me anymore. Emily's address led me to a quiet neighborhood. Smaller homes, well-kept lawns, simple, peaceful. I parked my car across the street. For a moment, I didn't move. What if she didn't want to see me? What if I made things worse? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Then I stepped out of the car. Each step toward her front door felt heavier than the last. By the time I reached it, my heart was pounding. I raised my hand, knocked once, softly. No answer. I waited, knocked again, this time louder. Footsteps, slow, careful. Then the door opened. Emily stood there. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked thinner, paler, but still the same Emily. The same gentle eyes, the same quiet presence. Lorraine, she whispered. I felt my throat tighten. Hi, Emily. There was a long silence. Then she stepped aside. Come in. Her voice was soft, but not distant. I walked inside. The house was simple, modest, a small living room, a bookshelf, a few framed photos. Nothing extravagant, nothing temporary either. She had built a life here, without us. Can I get you something? She asked. No, thank you. We stood awkwardly for a moment. Then she gestured toward the couch. Please sit. I sat down slowly. She sat across from me. Her hands were folded in her lap. I could see the tension in them. I didn't expect to see you, she said quietly. I know. I hesitated. I hope I didn't overstep. She shook her head gently. No, you didn't. Another silence, heavier this time. I've been trying to reach you, I said. I know, she replied. That surprised me. You knew. She nodded. I just wasn't ready. I swallowed. Ready for what? She looked down for a moment, then back at me. This. The word hung between us. I understand, I said softly. No, she shook her head. You don't. There was no accusation in her voice, just honesty. And that hurt more. You're right, I admitted. I don't. My voice cracked slightly. That's why I'm here. She studied my face carefully. You want to know what happened? Yes, the word came out stronger than I expected. I need to know. She leaned back slightly, took a deep breath, then asked something I wasn't prepared for. Why now? I blinked. What do you mean? You had 6 months. I didn't know where you were. You could have asked Ryan. I shook my head. He said he didn't know. She gave a small, sad smile. Of course he did. Something inside me shifted. You don't believe him, I said. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked again. Why now? I took a deep breath. Because I'm losing everything. Her expression changed slightly. What do you mean people believe him, Emily? My voice trembled. Family, friends, everyone. She looked away. I'm sorry. I don't need sympathy, I said quietly. I need the truth. That got her attention. She looked back at me, and for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Conflict, fear, pain. I never wanted you to be dragged into this, she said. I already am, I replied. Silence. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. The question that had been haunting me. Did you leave because of me? Her reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened. What? No? The answer came so quickly, so firmly, that I felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. No idea you leave because of me? Her reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened. What? No. The answer came so quickly, so firmly, that I felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. No, she repeated. Lorraine, you had nothing to do with it. I closed my eyes briefly. A quiet wave of relief washed over me. But it didn't last. Then why does Ryan think I did? I asked. She looked down again. He doesn't think that. I frowned. Then why is he telling everyone that I ruined his marriage? She didn't answer right away. Her silence said more than words ever could. Emily, I whispered. What is he hiding? She pressed her lips together. Torn. I could see it. Whatever the truth was, she had been carrying it alone for a long time. I promised myself I wouldn't do this, she said finally. Do what? Say anything that could hurt him. My heart sank. Even if it's the truth. She looked at me. Yes. That was the moment I understood something clearly. She wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting him. Even now. Even after everything. Why? I asked softly. Her voice broke slightly. Because I loved him. Past tense. Loved. And now I asked. She hesitated. Now I don't know what to call it. I leaned forward slightly. Emily, whatever you went through, you don't have to carry it alone anymore. She shook her head. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Her eyes filled with tears. I stayed quiet because I thought it would make things easier. For who? For you? The words hit me like a shock. For me, I repeated. She nodded. I didn't want you to lose your son. My breath caught. So you chose to lose everything instead, I asked. She didn't answer, because that was exactly what she had done. I sat there trying to process it, trying to understand how someone could sacrifice that much. Emily, I said slowly, whatever you think you protected, it didn't work. She looked at me confused. Ryan is still hurting, and you're being blamed. And I'm losing my family, I added quietly. The room fell silent again. this time heavier than before. Because we both knew something had to change. The truth was sitting right there between us, unspoken, waiting. And for the first time since I walked in, I saw her hesitate. Not because she didn't want to speak, but because she knew, once she did, everything would change. I didn't speak right away. Neither did Emily. We sat there, facing each other, both knowing that whatever came next would change everything. You said you stayed quiet to protect me, I finally said. She nodded slowly. Yes. From what? I asked. Her fingers tightened in her lap. From the truth. That answer sent a chill through me. What truth? I pressed. She closed her eyes for a moment as if gathering strength. Then she looked at me again. Ryan wasn't the man you thought he was. I felt my chest tighten immediately. No, I said instinctively. That's not, it's true, she interrupted gently. Her tone wasn't angry, it wasn't defensive, it was tired. I didn't want you to see it, she added. I shook my head slowly. I raised him, Emily. I know my son. She held my gaze. Do you? The question landed harder than anything else she had said so far. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Because deep down, a small, uncomfortable voice whispered something I didn't want to admit. You don't. What did he do? I asked quietly. She hesitated again. And this time, I could see the fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, fear of what saying it out loud would mean. It didn't start all at once, she said. It never does. I stayed silent, letting her speak. At first, it was small things. She continued. He would come home stressed, irritated. I nodded slightly. I noticed that. She gave a sad smile. Of course you did, but you didn't see what happened after. My stomach tightened. What happened after? Her voice dropped. He would blame me. For what? For everything. She let out a slow breath. If dinner wasn't ready the way he wanted, it was my fault. If the house was messy, my fault. If he had a bad day at work somehow, that became my fault too. I felt something shift inside me. Discomfort. Confusion. No, I whispered. Ryan wouldn't. He did, she said firmly. There was no hesitation this time, no softness, just truth. He didn't scream at first, she continued. That came later. My hands were gripping my knees now. What do you mean later? She looked down. He started with criticism. I could hear the pain in her voice. Little comments. Constant. You're too sensitive. Why can't you just relax? Other wives don't act like this. Each sentence hit me like a weight. I thought it was stress, she said. I thought if I just supported him more, it would pass. I closed my eyes briefly. That sounded like Emily, always trying to fix things, always trying to understand. But it didn't pass, I said quietly. She shook her head. No. Her voice broke slightly. It got worse. I swallowed hard. How? She hesitated. Then she said something that made my heart stop. He started controlling things. I leaned forward. What kind of things? Who I talked to? When I went out? What I spent money on? I felt a wave of disbelief. That doesn't sound like Ryan. She looked at me. I know. That simple answer hurt more than anything else, because she wasn't arguing. She was acknowledging the same truth I was struggling with. I didn't tell anyone, she continued. Not my friends, not my family. Why not, I asked. She gave a small, sad laugh. Because I kept thinking it would go back to the way it was. I remembered those early years, the laughter, the warmth, the love. Did it ever? I asked. She shook her head. No. The room felt heavier, harder to breathe. I tried talking to him, she said, calmly, gently, and he would turn it around. How? He'd say I was overreacting, that I was imagining things, that I was the one causing problems, gaslighting. I didn't say the word out loud, but I felt it, clear as day. And you believed him? I asked softly. At first, yes. Her eyes filled with tears. I started questioning myself, wondering if I really was too sensitive, too emotional, too difficult. My heart broke hearing that, because I knew that wasn't Emily, not the woman I had come to love. Then what changed, I asked. She took a deep breath. The night everything fell apart. The words hung in the air, heavy, final. What happened that night, I asked. She looked at me, and this time there was no hesitation. He lost control. My entire body tensed. Emily, he didn't hit me, she said quickly. But he came close. The room went silent, completely silent. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud, uneven. What do you mean, he came close? I asked. Her voice trembled. He grabbed my arm. Tight, so tight I had bruises the next day. I felt my breath leave my body. He was yelling, louder than I'd ever heard, and I was scared. That word, scared. I had never imagined Emily feeling that way around my son. Never. I told him to stop, she continued, but he didn't, and in that moment I realized something. She looked straight at me. I wasn't safe anymore. Tears blurred my vision. No, I whispered. He wouldn't. He did, she said gently. And I believed her. Because there was no anger in her voice, no attempt to convince me, just truth. Painful, undeniable truth. What did you do? I asked, barely able to speak. I left. Her answer was simple. I packed a bag that night. I waited until he fell asleep, and I walked out. No drama, no goodbye, just survival. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. My voice broke. I could have helped you. She shook her head. No. Why not? Because I knew what it would do to you. Her words cut deep. I didn't want you to see him that way. I covered my mouth, trying to hold back tears. So you let him tell everyone it was your fault? I asked. She nodded slowly. Yes, and you let him blame me, I added. Her eyes filled with guilt. I didn't think he would go that far. But when he did, I didn't know how to fix it without exposing everything. I leaned back, overwhelmed. 6 months. 6 months of silence. 6 months of lies spreading. 6 months of me losing everything. Because she was trying to protect me, and because he was protecting himself. Emily, I whispered, this changes everything. She nodded. I know, but there was something else, something still unanswered. If this is the truth, I said slowly, why hasn't he admitted it? She looked at me, and for the first time, there was a different kind of fear in her eyes. because he doesn't think he did anything wrong. That sentence hit harder than anything else, because it meant this wasn't just about one moment, one mistake, one night. It meant something much deeper, something darker. And suddenly, I realized something I wasn't ready to face. The son I had defended in my heart for 6 months was not the man I thought he was. I don't remember how long I sat there after Emily finished speaking. Time felt distorted, like everything I thought I knew had been quietly dismantled piece by piece, and I was only just realizing it. I need to understand one thing, I said finally. She nodded. Why didn't you tell anyone? Not even once. Her answer came slowly. Because I kept thinking it would stop. I closed my eyes. That hope. It was something I understood too well. And when it didn't, I asked. She looked down at her hands. I was ashamed. That surprised me. Ashamed of what you didn't do anything wrong. She shook her head. That's not how it feels when you're inside it. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the weight behind it. You start believing maybe you caused it. Maybe if you were better, calmer, quieter, it wouldn't happen. I felt a deep ache in my chest. No one deserves that, I said. She gave a faint smile. I know that now. A pause. But back then, I didn't. We sat in silence for a moment. Then another thought hit me. Emily, after you left, did Ryan try to contact you? She nodded. Yes. What did he say? Her expression changed slightly. At first he apologized. That didn't surprise me. Did you believe him? I asked. I wanted to. Her honesty was painful. But then he started blaming me again. Of course he did. What did he say? I asked. That I abandoned him. That I didn't support him. That I gave up too easily. Each sentence sounded painfully familiar, because those were the same things he had been telling everyone else. And when you didn't go back? I asked. She looked at me. That's when he changed the story. My stomach tightened. Changed it how? Her voice dropped. He made himself the victim. I let out a slow breath. And made you the problem. She nodded. Yes. And me? I asked carefully. Her hesitation returned. I didn't know he would involve you, but he did, yes. There was regret in her eyes. Real regret. I'm sorry, Lorraine, she said quietly. I never meant for you to get hurt. I shook my head. This isn't your fault. But even as I said it, I realized something. Fault didn't matter anymore. Truth did. And the truth was, everything I had been told was wrong. I need to ask you something else, I said. She nodded. Did he ever apologize sincerely? She thought for a moment. Once. When? The morning after that night. What did he say? Her voice softened slightly. He said he didn't mean to scare me, that he was just overwhelmed, that he lost control. I waited. And did you believe him? I asked. She looked at me. I believed he felt bad, but not that he would change. That distinction hit me hard, because it meant something very clear. He wasn't unaware. He knew what he had done, and he still chose not to change. What made you realize that I asked? She took a deep breath. Because he asked me to forget it? I frowned. What do you mean? He said it was just one bad night, that we should move on. That bringing it up again, move on. That bringing it up again would only cause more problems. I felt anger rise in my chest. That's not accountability, I said. She shook her head. No, it's avoidance. We sat there quietly. Then something else clicked in my mind. Emily would only cause more problems. I felt anger rise in my chest. That's not accountability, I said. She shook her head. No, it's avoidance. We sat there quietly. Then something else clicked in my mind. Emily, did anyone else know about this? She hesitated. Sarah knew a little. Anyone else? No, not even your family. She shook her head. I didn't want them to hate him. That sentence broke something inside me, because it showed just how much she had protected him, even when he didn't deserve it. You gave up everything to protect him, I said. She looked at me. And you. I swallowed hard. But now, everything is still falling apart, I replied. She nodded slowly. I know. There was a long silence. Then I said something I hadn't planned. I can't let this continue. Her eyes widened slightly. What do you mean? I mean, I won't keep quiet while he destroys the truth. She sat up straighter. Lorraine? I'm not saying this out of anger, I added quickly. I'm saying it because this is wrong. She looked conflicted. You don't understand what this could do to him. I held her gaze. And you don't understand what this is already doing to everyone else. That stopped her. I've lost people, Emily, I said quietly. People who believed him without ever asking me. And if I stay silent, that becomes the truth. She didn't argue, because she knew I was right. But if you speak, she said slowly, it will destroy him. I shook my head. No, he did that himself. The words felt heavy, but they were true. Another silence filled the room. Then she asked something unexpected. What are you going to do? I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't entirely sure, but one thing was clear. I'm going to give him a chance, I said finally. A chance for what? To tell the truth himself. She watched me carefully. And if he doesn't, I took a slow breath. Then I will. Her expression softened. You really would do that? Yes, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because silence had already done too much damage. I don't want to hurt him, I continued. He's my son, but I won't protect a lie anymore. Emily looked down. I never wanted it to get this far. Neither did I replied. Then I stood up slowly. I should go. She stood too. We walked toward the door together. Before I left, I turned to her. Thank you for what she asked, for telling me the truth. Her eyes filled with tears again. I wish I had done it sooner. So do I said. But there was no blame in my voice, just acceptance, because we were both trying to do what we thought was right. We had just chosen different ways. I stepped outside. The air felt different, heavier, but clearer. For the first time in 6 months, I knew what had really happened. And that knowledge came with a responsibility. I got into my car and sat there for a moment. My hands rested on the steering wheel. Still. Quiet. Then I whispered to myself, it's time. Because the next conversation I had would not be with Emily. It would be with Ryan. And this time, I wasn't going to stay silent. I didn't call Ryan right away. Even after everything Emily told me, even after the truth finally had a shape, I needed time, not to doubt her, but to prepare myself. Because I knew one thing for certain. The next conversation with my son would not be easy. That night, I sat alone in my living room. The same chair, the same silence, but everything felt different. Before I had questions. Now I had answers, and those answers were heavier than I expected. I kept replaying Emily's words in my mind. He grabbed my arm. I wasn't safe anymore. I didn't want you to lose your son. Each sentence carved deeper into me, because I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. I hadn't lost my son in 6 months. I had been losing him for much longer. I just didn't notice. The next morning, I picked up my phone. My hand hovered over his name. For a moment, I almost put it down. But then I remembered the look in Emily's eyes. The fear. The pain. The silence she carried alone. And I pressed call. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mom. His voice was neutral, guarded. Ryan, I said calmly. We need to talk. A pause. About what I didn't soften it. About your marriage. Another pause. Longer this time. There's nothing to talk about, he said. Yes, there is. No, there isn't. I closed my eyes briefly. Ryan. I spoke to Emily. Silence. Heavy. Sharp. Then his voice changed. When I went to see her, you had no right to do that. The anger came fast. Too fast. I had every right, I replied. She's part of this family. Not anymore, he snapped. That's where you're wrong. His breathing became louder on the other end. What did she tell you, he asked. The question wasn't curious. It was defensive. She told me the truth. Another silence, and this one felt different. What truth, he said, quieter now. I stood up slowly, pacing the room. The night she left, no response. Ryan, she didn't just walk away. Still nothing. She left because she was scared. That's when he spoke. Don't, he said sharply. Don't act like you know what happened. I do know, I replied. I heard it from her. That's her version. His tone hardened again. Not yours. My version, I repeated. Yes. Then tell me your version, I said. A long pause followed. I could almost hear him thinking, calculating. What do you want me to say? He asked. I want you to tell me what happened that night. His answer came quickly. Nothing happened. I stopped pacing. Nothing? No. My chest tightened. She made it up. I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I'm saying she's exaggerating. There it was. The shift. Not denial. Minimization. That's not what she described, I said. She always overreacted. He replied. The words hit me like a slap, because I had heard them before. From Emily. She said you grabbed her arm. I continued. I did. He admitted. The honesty caught me off guard. But it wasn't like that. How was it, I asked. She was trying to leave in the middle of an argument, and I stopped her by grabbing her. Yes. Hard enough to leave bruises. He didn't answer immediately. It wasn't intentional, he said finally. My heart sank. Ryan, do you hear yourself? What? He snapped. You're just taking her side again. There it was. The same accusation. You think this is about sides, I asked? Isn't it? No. Then what is it? It's about truth. You're just taking her side again. There it was. The same accusation. You think this is about sides? I asked. Isn't it? No. Then what is it? It's about truth. He let out a bitter laugh. You think you know the truth because you talked to her once? I think I know enough to ask you questions, I replied. That's all I'm doing. He was quiet again. Then he said something that chilled me. She pushed me first. I froze. What? She pushed me, he repeated. And you think that justifies what you did? I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I'm saying it wasn't one-sided. I took a deep breath. Ryan, even if that's true, it doesn't change what you did. He didn't respond. You scared her, I said. She left because she didn't feel safe. She left because she gave up. He shot back. No, I said firmly. She left because she had to. Silence again. Then his voice dropped. You always do this. Do what? Make me the villain. My chest tightened. I'm not making you anything, I said. I'm asking you to take responsibility. I said I didn't mean it. That's not the same thing. What do you want from me? He demanded. I want honesty. I am being honest. No, I said quietly. You're protecting yourself. That hit him. I could feel it, because his tone changed again. Lower, colder. You don't understand what it's like, he said. What is like being under constant pressure. From what? Work, life, expectations, and Emily. She added to it. I closed my eyes. There it was again. Blame. Always blame. She tried to support you, I said. She didn't understand me, and grabbing her arm helped, I asked. He didn't answer. We stayed in silence for a long moment. Then I said the hardest thing I had to say. You told people I ruined your marriage. His response was immediate. You didn't help. That's not what you said. I told them the truth. No, I said. You told them a version that made you look better. That's not fair. What's not fair is blaming me for something I didn't even know was happening. You should have known, he said. How? You're my mother. That sentence hurt, but not in the same way as before. This time I saw it clearly. This wasn't about me. It never was. You didn't tell me, I said calmly, and now you're blaming me for not knowing. He didn't respond, because he couldn't. Ryan, I continued, you have a choice right now. What choice? You can keep telling your version of the story, or you can tell the truth. He let out a slow breath. And what happens if I don't? I paused. Then I answered honestly. Then I will. Silence. Heavy. Final. You wouldn't, he said. I would, I replied. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But because it was the only way forward. You'd ruin me, he said. No, I said softly. You did that yourself. The line went quiet, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid of that silence. Because I knew something he didn't. The truth was no longer hidden, and sooner or later, it was going to come out. After that call, Ryan didn't reach out again. No messages, no apologies, nothing. The silence between us became louder than any argument we'd ever had, but this time, I didn't rush to fix it. For the first time in my life, I let the silence sit, because I knew something had shifted, not just in him, but in me. 2 days later, I made a decision. If Ryan wouldn't tell the truth, then I would create a space where the truth could no longer be ignored. I called a family dinner, nothing unusual on the surface, just a Sunday gathering, the kind we used to have all the time. I invited everyone. My sister Diane, my brother-in-law Mark, a few close cousins, People who had heard Ryan's version of the story. People who had quietly judged me. And most importantly, I invited Ryan. He hesitated at first. "I don't see the point," he said on the phone. "The point is, we're family," I replied calmly. "And we need to talk." There was a long pause. Then he sighed. "Fine, it'll come." That was all I needed. I also made one more call, a harder one. "Emily," I said softly when she answered. "Yes, I'm having a family dinner this Sunday." Silence. "I'd like you to come." Her breath caught. "Lorraine, I don't think that's a good idea. I understand why you'd feel that way," I said. "But this isn't about creating conflict." "Then what is it about?" "It's about truth." She didn't respond right away. "I'm not asking you to confront anyone," I continued. "I'm asking you to be present." "That's the same thing," she said quietly. I took a breath. "Emily, you stayed silent to protect people." "Yes, but that silence is hurting everyone now." Another pause. "I don't want to make things worse," she said. "You won't," I replied. "I promise you, I won't let that happen." She hesitated. I could feel her fear through the phone, but I also knew something else. She was tired of carrying something alone. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's all I ask." Sunday came faster than I expected. By late afternoon, my house was full. Voices, laughter, small talk. On the surface, everything looked normal. But underneath, there was tension. I could feel it in the way people avoided certain topics, in the way conversations paused when I walked into a room. They knew something was off. They just didn't know what. Ryan arrived last. As usual. He walked in, greeted a few people, then looked at me. Our eyes met. For a moment, a room. They knew something was off. They just didn't know what. Ryan arrived last, as usual. He walked in, greeted a few people, then looked at me. Our eyes met. For a moment. Neither of us smiled. "Mom," he said. "Ryan." His tone was polite, but distant, careful, like he was preparing for something. "Is everyone here?" he asked. "Almost," I said. He frowned slightly. "Who are we waiting for?" Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. The entire room seemed to freeze. I walked toward the door slowly. My heart was steady, stronger than it had been in months. I opened the door. Emily stood there, for a brief moment. She looked like she might turn around and leave, but then she saw me, and I gave her a small nod. "You're okay," I said softly. She took a breath, then stepped inside. The reaction in the room was immediate. Silence. Complete silence. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned. Ryan stood up slowly. "What is she doing here?" he asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. "Ryan," I said calmly, "sit down." "No," he shook his head. "I want to know why she's here." "Because she was invited." "By who?" "By me." His jaw tightened. "This is not appropriate." "What's not appropriate," I said, "is living in a lie." The room grew even quieter. No one moved. No one spoke. Ryan looked around, clearly aware that everyone was watching now. "This isn't the place for this," he said. "It is exactly the place," I replied. "Family deserves the truth." Emily stood near the doorway, still unsure whether to stay or leave. "Emily," I said gently, "please come in." She hesitated, then slowly walked further into the room. Ryan's eyes followed her, hard, cold. "You shouldn't be here," he said. She didn't respond. Instead, she looked at me, waiting, trusting me to handle this. And I would. Everyone I said, turning to the room, I know this is unexpected. No one disagreed. I invited Emily because there's something we all need to hear. Ryan let out a sharp breath. This is ridiculous. No, I said quietly. What's ridiculous is how this family has been divided by a story that isn't true. That got everyone's attention. What do you mean? Diane asked. I looked at her. Ryan told you why his marriage ended. She nodded slowly. Yes, I want you to hear the full story. Ryan stepped forward. No, absolutely not. I turned to him. Why not? Because this is private. It stopped being private when you made it public, I replied. A few people shifted uncomfortably, because they knew it was true. You told everyone your version, I continued. Now it's time they hear the rest. There is no rest, he said firmly. I held his gaze. Yes, there is. He looked at Emily, then back at me. This is a mistake. Then correct it, I said. Tell them what really happened. Silence. He didn't speak, because he couldn't. I turned to Emily. You don't have to say anything you're not ready to say. Her hands were shaking slightly. I could see it, but she didn't look away. Just tell the truth, I added softly. Ryan's voice rose. Emily, don't. That was the moment everything shifted, because for the first time, everyone saw it. The control, the fear, the tension, and Emily noticed it too. She straightened slightly, took a breath, and said quietly, I didn't leave because I stopped loving him. The room went completely still. I left, she continued, because I didn't feel safe anymore. A gasp, soft, but unmistakable. Ryan shook his head immediately. That's not true. She didn't look at him. She looked at everyone else. He grabbed me during an argument, she said. He left bruises. Diane covered her mouth. Mark frowned deeply. That's not what happened, Ryan insisted, but his voice wasn't as strong now, because doubt had entered the room. Visible, palpable. You told me you left because you were unhappy, one of my cousins said. I was, Emily replied. But not for the reasons you think. She finally looked at Ryan. And you know that. He didn't respond, because this time there were too many witnesses, too many eyes, too many people seeing the cracks in his story. And I realized something in that moment. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be heard. No one spoke for several seconds after Emily finished that sentence. I didn't feel safe anymore. It lingered in the air like something no one quite knew how to touch. I looked around the room, faces I had known for decades, now filled with confusion, shock, doubt, and slowly understanding. Ryan was the first to break the silence. That's not what happened, he said again. But this time, his voice didn't carry the same weight. Because now, he wasn't just speaking to me. He was speaking to everyone, and everyone was watching. Emily didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She simply stood there steady. I didn't want to say any of this, she said quietly. Then don't, Ryan snapped. That reaction alone shifted something in the room. Because it wasn't concern. It wasn't pain. It was control. And people saw it. Diane said cautiously, let her finish. He turned toward her. You don't understand what's going on. Then help us understand, she replied. For the first time, he didn't have an immediate answer. I stepped forward slightly. "Emily," I said gently, "you don't have to rush." She nodded, then took a slow breath. "I stayed quiet for a long time," she continued. "Not because nothing happened, but because I didn't want to hurt anyone." Her eyes flickered toward me. "Just for a second, and that was enough." Everyone noticed. "You protected him," Mark said quietly. Emily hesitated. "Yes." Ryan let out a sharp laugh. "That's ridiculous." But no one laughed with him. "Then why didn't you tell anyone?" Diane asked Emily. Emily's voice softened. "Because I thought it would stop." There it was again. Hope. The kind that keeps people in places they shouldn't stay. "But it didn't," Diane said. "No," Emily replied. "It didn't." Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "You're making this sound worse than it was." Emily finally looked directly at him. "I'm not making anything sound like anything she said. I'm telling the truth." Her calmness unsettled him. I could see it, because anger needs resistance, and she wasn't giving him any. "Tell them about the argument," he said suddenly. "What argument?" Mark asked. "The one where she pushed me," Ryan said. The room shifted again. Eyes moved back to Emily, waiting, watching. "Did you push him?" Diane asked carefully. Emily nodded once. "Yes." Ryan seized that immediately. "See?" he said. It wasn't one-sided, but Emily didn't look defensive. She didn't panic. She didn't try to explain it away. "Yes," she repeated. "I pushed him." Then she added quietly, "Because he wouldn't let me leave." That changed everything. The context, the meaning, the truth behind the action. Ryan's expression hardened. "You're twisting it." "I'm not," she replied. "You grabbed my arm first, and you escalated it," he shot back. "I tried to get away," she said. Silence again. He didn't have a response for that, because there wasn't one. I stepped in. "Ryan," I said calmly, "this isn't about winning an argument." He looked at me, frustrated, cornered. "It feels like it," he muttered. "That's because you're treating it like one." He didn't respond, because deep down, he knew I was right. Diane spoke again more firmly this time. "Ryan, did you leave marks on her?" He hesitated. "Just for a second." But it was enough. "Yes," he admitted. A quiet wave of reaction moved through the room. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Because that one word confirmed everything. Emily didn't need to say anything else. The truth had already begun revealing itself. But she wasn't done. "There's more," she said softly. Ryan immediately shook his head. "No," but she continued. "Before that night, there were other things." "What things?" Mark asked. She looked at him, then at everyone. He controlled everything. Ryan scoffed. "That's not true." Emily didn't react to his tone. "Money, time, who I talked to, what I did." Each word was measured. Careful, clear. "You never complained before," Ryan said. "I tried talking to you," she replied. "You dismissed it." "That's not." "It is," she said gently. And that gentleness was more powerful than any argument, because it wasn't about attacking him. It was about exposing the truth. I looked at Ryan, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't see my son. I saw a man trying to hold together a version of reality that was falling apart in front of him. "You told us she left because she didn't love you anymore," Diane said slowly. Ryan didn't answer. Was that true? She pressed. He looked down, then away. No, that single word shifted everything completely. Because now, it wasn't just Emily speaking. It was him, confirming it. Then why did you say that? Mark asked. Ryan's jaw tightened. I didn't want people to think. He stopped. To think what? I asked quietly. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not defensiveness, fear. I didn't want people to think I failed, he said. The room went still. I worked so hard, he continued, for everything. My career, my life. And then my marriage falls apart. He shook his head. I couldn't accept that. So you blamed her? Diane asked. He hesitated. Yes. And me, I added softly. His eyes flickered toward me, then away. Yes. That hurt, even now. Even after everything. But I didn't interrupt. I needed a reason, he said. Something that made sense. Something that wasn't me. There it was, the truth. Not about the marriage, but about him. I didn't think it would go this far, he added quietly. Emily looked at him. It always does when you don't tell the truth. He didn't argue, because he couldn't. The room felt different now. Not tense, not explosive, just heavy. Because the illusion had been broken. And once that happens, there's no going back. I stepped forward slowly. Ryan, I said. He looked at me. What happens next depends on you. He swallowed. What do you mean? You've heard the truth. Now you have to decide what you're going to do with it. He didn't answer. Not yet. Because for the first time in his life, there was no one left to hide behind. No story to control. No version to manipulate. Just truth. And the consequences that come with it. No one moved. No one rushed to comfort anyone. No one tried to fix what had just been broken open. Because some moments don't need fixing. They need to be faced. Ryan stood there in the middle of the room, his shoulders slightly slumped now. Not defeated, but no longer in control. And for the first time in his life, he didn't have a way to redirect the narrative. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, he said quietly. No one responded. Because that wasn't enough anymore. Intent wasn't enough. Not after everything. Emily didn't speak either. She just stood there steady, as if she had finally set down something she'd been carrying for too long. I stepped forward slowly. Ryan, I said. He looked at me, not with anger this time, not even with defensiveness, just uncertainty. Yes, he asked. What you say next matters. The room seemed to lean in, waiting. Not for perfection, not for excuses, for truth. He swallowed hard. He started, then stopped, ran a hand through his hair, looked at the floor. Then, back up again. I didn't think it was that bad. That sentence landed quietly, but heavily. Emily didn't react. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. I knew we were arguing more, he continued. I knew things were tense, but I didn't think... He stopped again. Didn't think what? Diane asked softly. That I was scaring her. There it was. The first real acknowledgement. Not complete, but real. You didn't listen when she tried to tell you? Mark added. Ryan nodded slightly. I thought she was exaggerating. Emily's eyes flickered. Not with anger, with recognition, because she had heard that before. I thought if she just adjusted, he continued, things would get better. And when they didn't, I asked. He hesitated. I got frustrated. That's when you grabbed her, Diane pressed. He nodded once. Yes. The word was barely audible, but it was enough. And after that, I asked. He looked at me. I thought it was over. What do you mean I thought it was just a moment? His voice cracked slightly. One bad moment. Emily shook her head slowly. It wasn't just one moment. He closed his eyes briefly. I know that now. Silence. Then something shifted again. Not in the room, in him. I didn't want to lose everything he said. So you lied, Mark asked. Ryan didn't look at him. Yes, the honesty was blunt, uncomfortable, necessary. I told people what made me look better, he continued. I told myself it was just simplifying things. But no one nodded. No one agreed, because everyone understood what that really meant. You made her the villain, Diane said quietly. And me, I added. He looked at me again. This time, he didn't look away. I know. That was the first time he said it without hesitation, without deflection. I shouldn't have done that. The room remained quiet. Because apologies are easy, accountability is harder. What are you going to do about it? I asked. He blinked. What do you mean? I mean, now that you've admitted the truth, what comes next? He didn't answer right away, because that question didn't have an easy answer. I don't know, he admitted. That's honest, I said, but it's not enough. He nodded slowly. I know. He turned slightly toward Emily. She didn't step back. She didn't move at all. I'm sorry, he said. The words were simple, but different this time. Not rushed, not defensive. I should have listened to you. Emily held his gaze, but she didn't respond. Not yet. I should have taken responsibility, he continued. Instead, I blamed you. Still silence. And I blamed you too, he added, looking at me. That one hurt more than I expected, but I didn't interrupt. I didn't want to admit I failed, he said, so I made it someone else's fault. That was the truth. Plain, clear, uncomfortable. I'm sorry, he repeated. This time, it felt heavier, real. Emily finally spoke. Do you understand why I left? Her voice was calm. Not accusing, but firm. Ryan nodded slowly. Yes. Say it, she said. The room held its breath. He hesitated, then said quietly, because you didn't feel safe. She watched him carefully, and because I didn't listen. Another pause, and he swallowed. Because I made you feel small. That was it, the full acknowledgement. Not perfect, but complete. Emily closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. Thank you, she said softly. Ryan looked surprised. You're thanking me. I'm acknowledging that you're finally being honest. That distinction mattered a lot. Does that mean? He started. She shook her head gently. No. The answer came without hesitation. I'm not coming back. The finality of it settled over the room. Not dramatic, not loud, just certain. Ryan didn't argue, didn't try to convince her, because for the first time he understood. This isn't about punishment, she added. It's about reality. He nodded. I understand, and I believed him, because there was nothing left to gain by pretending. I stepped forward again. Ryan, I said softly. He looked at me. Yes, this is where it begins. What does he ask? Taking responsibility for your life. He nodded slowly. I don't know how to fix this. You don't fix it, I replied. You face it. He absorbed that. Quietly. And you accept the consequences, I added. He nodded again. I will. The room slowly began to breathe again. People shifted, sat down, processed. But nothing would ever be the same after that moment. Because truth changes things. Always. Sometimes painfully. Sometimes slowly. But always permanently. And as I stood there looking at my son, I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the end of the lie, and the beginning of something much harder. Something real. The dinner didn't end abruptly. No one stormed out. No plates were slammed. No voices were raised. Instead, people slowly sat back down, like they needed time to process what had just happened. And honestly, so did I, because truth doesn't explode. It settles, quietly, heavily, into every corner of the room. Emily stayed. That surprised me. I expected her to leave the moment everything was said, but she didn't. She sat at the edge of the table, hands folded in her lap. Calm, still, free. Ryan didn't sit right away. He stood there for a while, looking around, taking in the faces, the reactions, the shift. Then he slowly pulled out a chair and sat down. Across from her, for the first time in months. They were in the same room, not as husband and wife, not as enemies, just two people who had finally stopped pretending. Dinner resumed, quiet at first, small conversations, careful words, but slowly. It became something else, not normal, but honest. Diane reached for her glass. I think we all owe Emily an apology, she said. No one disagreed. I'm sorry, she added, looking directly at her. I believed something without asking questions. Emily gave a small, gentle nod. Thank you. Mark spoke next. Me too, he said. I should have listened more carefully. One by one, people followed. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just simple acknowledgments. And each one mattered, because it gave Emily something she hadn't had before. Validation. Recognition. Truth. Ryan stayed quiet through all of it. He didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself, didn't try to redirect. He just listened, and I could see it in his face. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. After a while, I stood up and walked into the kitchen. I needed a moment, just a moment to breathe, to feel everything that had just happened. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps behind me. Ryan. Of course. Mom, he said softly. I didn't turn right away. Yes, I didn't expect any of this. I let out a quiet breath. Neither did I. He stepped closer. I thought you were just overreacting. I turned to face him, and now he looked down. I was wrong. The words came easier now. Not perfect, but real. You were, I said. He nodded. I see that. Silence settled between us. But it wasn't the same silence as before. This one was quieter, less defensive, more reflective. I hurt you, he said. I didn't answer immediately, because I needed him to understand something. You didn't just hurt me. I said finally, you betrayed me. He flinched slightly, and that told me he hadn't fully realized it before. I trusted you, I continued. I believed what you told me, and you used that trust to protect a lie. His eyes filled slightly. I didn't think of it that way. I know, I said. That's the problem. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I studied his face, looking for the same signs I had seen before. Deflection, excuses, justification. But they weren't there. For once, he wasn't trying to win. He was trying to understand. I believe you're sorry, I said. Relief flickered across his face, but I wasn't finished. That doesn't fix it. The relief disappeared. I know. It doesn't erase what you said about me. I know. It doesn't undo the damage. I know. Each acknowledgement came quicker now, because he wasn't resisting anymore. He was accepting, and that was new. What are you going to do? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know where to start. I nodded. That's honest. But it's not enough. He let out a breath. I'll tell people the truth. That was a start. Everyone. I asked. Yes. Even the ones you convinced, yes. Even if it makes you look bad. He didn't hesitate this time. Yes. I held his gaze, measuring him, weighing his words, because this mattered, not just for him, for everyone. Okay, I said. He looked surprised. That's it? No, I replied. That's just the beginning. He nodded slowly. I understand. Another pause. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? I looked at him carefully. Forgiveness isn't something you ask for, I said. It's so me thing you earn. He nodded. I figured. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting. Do you think she'll ever forgive me? I looked at him carefully. Forgiveness isn't something you ask for, I said. It's something you earn. He nodded. I figured. And even then I added she may not choose to give it. He looked down. I know, but that doesn't change what you need to do. He nodded again. You'll do it anyway. That mattered, because for the first time his actions weren't tied to what he would get in return. They were tied to what was right. We stood there for a moment. Then I placed my hand lightly on his arm. A small gesture, but significant. I'm still your mother, I said. His eyes lifted to mine. I know. But that doesn't mean I'll protect you from your mistakes. I don't want you to, he replied, and for the first time, I believed him. We walked back into the dining room together. Emily looked up as we entered. Our eyes met briefly. And in that moment, there was something different between us, not just understanding, respect, because we had both done something difficult, something necessary, something that changed everything. Dinner continued, lighter now, not because everything was fixed, but because everything was real. And as I sat back down, I realized something quietly powerful. Truth doesn't destroy families. Lies do. And tonight, we had finally stopped lying. The house felt different after that night. Not empty, not broken, just quieter, like something heavy had finally been removed. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I sat by the window with my coffee watching the sunlight come through the trees. For months, I had carried a weight I didn't fully understand. Confusion, doubt, guilt. But now, there was clarity. And clarity, I realized, doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it just feels light come through the trees. For months, I had carried a weight I didn't fully understand. Confusion, doubt, guilt. But now, there was clarity. And clarity, I realized, doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it just feels honest. Around mid-morning, my phone rang. Ryan. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello, Mom," he said. His voice sounded different. Not just tired, grounded. "I've been thinking all night," he continued. I figured I replied. There was a small pause. "I'm going to start telling people the truth today." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Good. I already called Mark this morning," he added, "and Diane. And then they weren't angry," he said. "They were just quiet. That's expected." I told them everything, he continued. Not just what happened that night, but how I handled everything after. I leaned back in my chair. "That matters." "I know," he said. "I should have done it sooner." Yes, no sugarcoating, no comfort where it wasn't deserved, just truth. "I also wrote something," he said. "What kind of something?" "A message. For everyone else." I paused. "What do you mean?" "The people I told before. The ones who believed me." I understood. "You want to correct the story?" "Yes, that's the right thing to do." "I know," he said, "but it's not easy. It's not supposed to be." Silence. Then he said something that surprised me. "I'm going to include you in it." My chest tightened slightly. "In what way?" "That's the right thing to do." "I know," he said, "but it's not easy. It's not supposed to be." Silence. Then he said something that surprised me. "I'm going to include you in it." My chest tightened slightly. "In what way I'm going to tell them I blamed you? And that it wasn't true? That mattered, more than I expected." "Okay," I said quietly. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Even if it changes how they see you?" "Yes." "Good." He took a breath. "I also want to talk to Emily." I closed my eyes for a moment. "That's not your decision alone. I know. I'm not asking her to come back. He struggled to find the words. "I want to apologize properly." "That's fair," I said, "but you need to respect her boundaries." "I will." "Give her time." "I will." I believed him, not because he said the right words, but because for the first time he wasn't rushing. He wasn't demanding. He was learning. "I'm proud of you," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. There was a long pause on the other end. "You are?" he asked. "Yes. For what you're doing now. Not for what he had done, but for what he was choosing to do next." "That means a lot," he said quietly. We hung up shortly after, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not complete, not perfect, but real. Later that afternoon, I called Emily. She answered after the second ring. "Hi, Lorraine." Her voice sounded lighter. "How are you?" I asked. Tired, she admitted, but relieved. I understand. We both stayed quiet for a moment, letting the weight of everything settle. Ryan called me, she said. That caught my attention. He did? Yes, and I didn't answer. I nodded. That's okay. He left a message, she added. What did he say? That he's sorry, that he understands now, and that he doesn't expect anything from me. I let out a quiet breath. That sounds like him. Different, she said. Yes. Do you think it's real? She asked. I didn't answer immediately, because this question mattered. It's a start, I said carefully. That's all it is right now. She was quiet. I don't hate him, she said after a moment. I know, but I can't go back. You don't have to. I won't. Her voice was steady, certain, and that made me proud of her. More than I could say. You did something very brave yesterday, I told her. She gave a small laugh. I didn't feel brave. You don't have to feel it to be it. She didn't respond, but I knew she understood. I should have spoken up sooner, she said. No, I replied gently. You spoke when you were ready. That's what matters. Another pause. Then she asked something unexpected. Are you okay? The question caught me off guard. Yes, I said. I think I am. You lost something too, she said softly. My son, in a way. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yes. But maybe not completely, I added. She didn't respond, because she understood what I meant. People don't change overnight, but they can start. And sometimes, that's enough. I'm here for you, I told her, not as his mother, but as someone who cares about you. Her voice softened. That means a lot. We ended the call shortly after, and as I sat there holding my phone, I realized something that hadn't been clear before. This wasn't about choosing sides. It never was. It was about choosing truth. Even when it hurts. Even when it costs something. Because in the end, truth doesn't just reveal people. It gives them a chance to become better. And whether they take that chance, that's up to them. As for me, I had made my choice, and I wasn't turning back. The days that followed didn't feel dramatic. There were no big confrontations, no sudden reunions, no perfect endings, just small, steady changes. And somehow those felt more real than anything else. Ryan kept his word. Within a week, he had spoken to everyone. Family, friends, colleagues, anyone he had told the original story to. He didn't soften it, didn't reshape it, didn't protect himself. He told the truth, the full truth. And, as expected, the reactions were mixed. Some people were quiet, some were disappointed, some were supportive in a cautious, measured way. But no one praised him. And that was important, because this wasn't about earning approval. It was about taking responsibility. One evening, about 10 days after the dinner, he came by the house again. This time, he didn't hesitate at the door. He knocked, waited. When I opened it, he gave me a small, uncertain smile. Hi, Mom. Hi. He stepped inside slowly. The house felt different with him in it. Not tense, but not the same as before either. And maybe it never would be. We sat in the living room, not across from each other like opponents, but not quite side by side yet either. Somewhere in between. I did what I said I would, he began. I know, I replied. I've heard. He nodded. It wasn't easy. I didn't expect it to be. He looked down at his hands. I lost a few people. I didn't respond right away. People who don't understand accountability aren't people you can build truth with, I said, finally. He absorbed that, slowly. I also gained something he added. What's that? People who don't understand accountability aren't people you can build truth with, I said, finally. He absorbed that, slowly. I also gained something he added. What's that perspective? That word mattered more than anything else he could have said. I've been thinking a lot about what Emily said, he continued. About control. About not listening. I stayed quiet. Let him speak. I didn't see it at the time, he said. But looking back, I can see how I made everything about me. That was true. Painfully true. And when things didn't go my way, I pushed harder, instead of stepping back. I nodded. That's a hard thing to admit. It is. Silence. Then he said something softer. I started therapy. That caught my attention. You did? Yes. Last week. I leaned back slightly. That's good. I think I should have done it a long time ago. Most people think that after they start. He gave a small, genuine smile. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. He nodded. I'm starting to understand things I didn't before. Like what? He hesitated, like why I needed control so much. That was deeper than I expected, and I asked. It's not just about the marriage, he said. It's about me. That was the first real step, not just fixing behavior, understanding it. I'm not expecting forgiveness, he added. From you or from Emily. That's good, I said, because it's not something you can demand. I know. I just want to become someone better. I studied his face again, looking for cracks, for signs of performance. But they weren't there. Just honesty. Quiet. Uncomfortable. Real. I believe you mean that, I said. He nodded. Thank you. We sat there for a moment. Then he asked, Can I come by again sometime? It was a simple question, but it carried a lot. Yes, I said, but understand something. He looked at me. This relationship, it's going to take time, I know. And it's going to be different. I understand. No more assumptions, I added. No more blind trust. He nodded. That's fair. Trust is rebuilt, I said. Not restored. I'll earn it, he replied. That was the right answer. Not promises, not guarantees, just willingness. Before he left, he paused at the door. Mom? Yes, thank you for not letting me stay in that lie. I looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I saw not just my son, but a man trying to grow. You're welcome, I said. After he left, the house felt quiet again, but not empty, not lonely, just peaceful. A few days later, I got a message from Emily. I heard what Ryan's been doing, she wrote. I smiled slightly. Yes, I didn't expect it. Neither did I. There was a pause before her next message. I'm glad. That was all she said. But it meant everything. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but acknowledgement. And sometimes that's enough. Weeks passed. Life slowly moved forward. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but honestly. And that made all the difference. One evening, I sat by the same window where this all began. Coffee in hand, sun setting, and I thought about everything that had happened. The accusations, the lies, the truth, the confrontation, the healing. And I realized something simple. Families don't break because of conflict. They break because of dishonesty, because of silence, because of fear. And they heal, not through perfection, but through truth, through accountability, through the courage to face what's real, even when it hurts, even when it changes everything, especially then. I took a slow breath, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to hold everything together. Because now, everything was standing on something stronger: truth. After everything you've heard in this story, I want to leave you with something important. Life doesn't always give us clean endings. People don't always become who we hope they'll be. And sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But that doesn't mean the story ends there. What matters is what happens after the truth comes out. Do we deny it? Do we run from it? Or do we face it even when it's uncomfortable? Ryan didn't become a different person overnight, but he made a choice, a difficult one, to stop lying, to take responsibility, to grow. And that's something many people never do. Emily didn't come back, and that's okay, because healing doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes healing means walking away and staying strong in that decision. And as for me, I learned that love doesn't mean protecting someone from consequences. It means holding them accountable, with honesty, with strength, and with boundaries. If this story touched you in any way, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where the truth changed everything? Do you believe people can truly change after facing their mistakes? Leave a comment and share your experience. And if you're listening from somewhere in the world right now, let me know where you are and what time it is for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy stories like this, because sometimes hearing someone else's story helps us understand our own.